fine. I think laughter is awesome.
Yes.
Laughter is good. I think
I've already started. It's recording.
That's fine. I don't care. Laughter is good. I think that is an awesome component of any treatment session. If you can make people laugh, that's a good thing.
Yes, absolutely.
I think I have, when I can't get people laughing, then I get a little concerned, actually. Sometimes it could be because of pain or whatever, Sometimes people are really obviously in pain when they come sometimes, and maybe they don't feel like chuckling so much. The chuckle factor isn't up there, but the chuckle factor is good.
Hi, everyone. I'm recording.
Hi, everybody. We're recording. We're talking. We're chuckling.
So I'm here with my friend Brant today, who I had to push record because he and I could just go and go
and
for days and just laugh.
And not, okay. And not officially start.
And so we're officially starting now.
It's official. Chuckle Fest 2020.
2020, April 20. Is it the 22nd? Yeah, it is. No, it's the 23rd. I don't even know what day it is anymore, or
I know.
Time of day.
I know, it's crazy.
So everyone, this is I'd like to introduce you to my friend Brant, who I met in 2013, very beginning of the year.
Is that when it was?
I believe so.
Right.
At NKT level 1. And he was a smart ass in the corner.
I don't think that's a correct assessment of what was going on.
No, let me say, you had a huge impact on me, actually, because at that time in my learning process, I still had kind of a starry-eyed way of looking at the world, as far as taking in information at face value and not being very discerning. And you have a beautiful way of waiting with information to see what's actually true, and a healthy dose of skepticism. And so I really learned a lot from you during that class about, like, not just accepting everything someone's shoving down my throat.
Take this. This is how it is.
Yeah, it was helpful for me.
I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored that I could show you the light. But I think you know what? I love classes like that where the teachers are, and it's not always the case, as we know, but where teachers are very open to exploring what it is they're saying, and if it is actually true or applicable, right, in a clinical setting or in our daily routines. Is this really going to help us, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to be able to do that, create that environment. And if they don't want to create it, I will.
Yeah, you did. I loved
bullshit.
I think it was you and Kiambu at a table, or maybe someone else. I can't remember exactly.
Maybe Ted. Ted was there too.
Hi, Kiambu. Hi, Ted.
Yeah, me, Kiambu, Ted. Yeah. I forget who else might have been there.
Geraldine was.
Oh, yes. Geraldine was there.
Hi, Geraldine.
And Ari Weller was there, I believe.
Hi, Ari. Name dropping. Yeah. I'm going to tag all these people.
Yeah, cool. And there were other people too. It's hard for me to, but anyway.
It's years ago now, 7 years ago, literally. However, would you be willing to share with people watching, how you got to be the stellar body worker that you are today?
Ooh, all right. Wow. Yes, the journey. The journey.
The hero's journey.
Yes, the hero's journey. I think that's what this is, right?
Yes.
Well, like a lot of people, I think a lot of people who get into our line of work are trying to fix themselves. I was trying to fix myself. Yeah. I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of issues, shoulder issues, hip issues, all kinds of stuff, back issues. And I've been an athlete my whole life, college football player, bodybuilder after college. I was an athlete. I was always working out. I was always athletic. I was always training. And when I got into my early 40s, which is now a while ago, let's say like 15 years ago, my body started really falling apart. And I just like, whoa, this is not good. I need to figure out, what am I going to do here? This is not how I want to live the rest of my life. And I think what's interesting, it was a conscious thing that I said, but it wasn't totally conscious in the idea that, oh, I want to have a result come of this. But I literally said, sort of, it was like a prayer. It was like putting it out to the universe, to God, like, hey, I need something here. a little help here. Throw me a bone here. I'm falling apart. Like, I need some help, and I'm open to whatever can come my way, whatever answer. And I sort of forgot about it, but was actually sort of kind of actively waiting for that information. And so that was an interesting thing. I always look back on that and I go, oh yeah, it started with a desire and a putting out to the universe, like, hey, I need some help, and I'm open to some information, some new information. And lo and behold, I ran into a guy back at Chelsea Piers, where I first started working when I came to New York, and he was doing MAT, and he started telling me about it. And before he finished the second sentence, I said, okay, where do you want me to be and how much is it? And he kept selling me on it. I was like, dude, stop selling the car. I'm coming over, and you're going to work on me. So after my first muscle activation technique session on my shoulder, it was like a miracle. Like, I went in there, I couldn't hardly move my arm over my head. It was like this, And then after that session, I was kind of swinging my arm around like a woman's softball pitcher, like, woo, woo. And I said, all right, this is cool. I this is some good stuff. And then I also started to realize, like, I was a personal trainer at the time while I was also pursuing an acting career. And, I'd tell my clients, okay, turn this way or do this. And they would go clunk, clunk, clunk. And, they couldn't do what I was asking them to do. And I couldn't figure it out. Like, why can't you just turn that way? And, so then I started to, the light bulb started going off, like, hey, I could help my clients if I could learn, stuff like MAT. And so that's where I started. I started with muscle activation techniques. When was that? That was 13, 14 years ago when I started taking those classes and learning how to become a practitioner. And as you know, once you open the alternative treatment door, right, then everything, hey, your friends all go, hey, did you see this technique? Did you see this technique? Have you tried this? So it has been that, right? Yeah. So MAT was really helpful for me and a lot of my clients. And then I discovered posturology, which was also extremely helpful for me and a lot of my clients. And then I've been every year since then, and I take classes, whether it's study this, that, or the other thing. Obviously, PDTR, NKT, voila, what else? I mean, I can't even think of everything all the things. Yeah, all the things. And it all kind of coalesces whether you wanted to or not, right? Right. In every session, you're bringing all that knowledge and experimentation and study and everything, and you bring it into the room, and all of a sudden something pops into my head. Well, maybe it's this. Wow, where did that come from? Oh yeah, it was a class back in, whatever 2015. Yeah, who knows? And so you bring it into the session, and then of course we all kind of gravitate to the 2 or 3 things that we really like, right? Or that really resonate with us and work for us, and we find more often than not help our people, right? So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's
with
kind
my
of like
process.
we've learned like a bunch of different languages, and then we pick the ones that are easiest to speak for us.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting you say that, because some people come into whatever it is they do with an intellectual approach, or some people come in with a spiritual or emotional. They need to feel it, and it has to move them in that way. And some people are body centric, and they got to feel it and do it and understand it in their body. And it's really interesting that way. And I'm sure, and we all use all of those things to one degree or another, right?
Right.
But the things that I tend to use in my sessions have been things that I have really felt change my body in a relatively quickly, and affect me in a positive way quickly. Those are the things I tend to use on a regular. So
Well, it makes sense. I mean, I think we're all like that, definitely. That's why I do more hypnotherapy than body work now, because for me, hypnotherapy has been life-changing.
Right, exactly. It makes the most sense to you of all the things you've done. Not that the other things are bad or don't work,
No,
or
they're
none
awesome.
of that. Yeah, but this makes the most sense to you. Like, oh yeah, this really, for sure.
Right.
So that's it. Yeah.
But of course, we have to get over that whole, this is the best tool. It's the only tool that works. And no other tool is,
as good as this, or, well, sure. And that's, unfortunately, that's where a lot of teachers come from, right? Anybody who's hawking their technique, of course they think their technique is the best, which I don't mind, but there's very few people out there who are willing to concede that, oh yeah, this is a good technique, and that could be helpful, and this could be helpful. And so it gets a little territorial, and
bullshitty.
Oh yeah, that was the word I was looking for. Bullshitty. It's one of my favorites. Bullshitty.
So what has been like a struggle for you, along the path, I guess? Is there anything that has been challenging? Working with clients or learning modalities or anything?
Yeah, I think, all of it is a challenge to one degree or another. I think there's, that part of us, that perfectionist, and all of us have it to one degree or another, right?
Yep.
But and some of us more so than others. Like, oh, if I don't do this perfectly, or if I don't do it exactly the way they say it in the book or in the notes, or they're, I'll never get this. And I guess overcoming that to a certain degree, and also being okay with, oh, I took this course, I spent X amount of dollars, $5,000, $10,000, whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, maybe this information isn't front and center for me in what I do on a regular basis. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay to take a class and spend money to learn something that ultimately you think maybe isn't something that you want to use on every day. I mean, I think that's where we need to be, is exposing ourselves to new ideas and different ideas and different approaches, because you never know when that thing comes across where you go, oh yeah, I really like that stuff. Yeah, that's going to work for me. So I'm coming at this from when I first started, I didn't know anything. I was a meathead. I knew how to lift weights, and I didn't know anything. And I'll never forget the first class I took. Greg Roscoff, the guy who started MAT, he gets up there and he starts talking about feet and how, a valgus foot hits the ground and, the tibia internally rotates and it causes this and that. The thing in my head was spinning. I didn't know what he was talking. I didn't know what any of these terms meant. I didn't know anything. So I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? But like anything, you hang around, you study, you work at it, and you learn, right?
Right.
So, so I think that was one of the most difficult things, is overcoming my lack of knowledge. I didn't study this in college. I didn't study biomechanics. I didn't study physical therapy. I didn't study any of that, right? So a knowledge base I didn't have. I feel like I should be studying more, but I'm lazy.
You are not.
No, it's, yeah.
Discerning.
Well, there's always more to learn. As we know, you could sit down with a textbook every day and never get there.
Right.
Just keep trying to learn. But so that initially I didn't have a knowledge base that you would think you would need to do what we do. So I had a lot of catching up to do there. So I think those would be the
struggles.
Yeah. And then implementing, trying to learn something and implementing it and failing a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like, wow, that didn't do what I thought it was going to do, or what I thought it should do, or what the teacher said it was going to do, or whatever, failing, which is hard because, we're working with people and they come in and, and I know the first thing they want is their pain to go away. Right.
Yeah.
And
not for you to fail and practice with them.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm not interested in your failures, Brant. Don't want to pay for you working this stuff out. So that's the other thing. And then, you're talking about challenges. I think managing people's expectations is obviously is always a challenge as a practitioner. People come in and they want a particular thing, whether it's, I want J-Lo abs, or I want to be out of pain. Okay, I understand that. I got it. I know what your goal is. There are a lot of things that need to happen for us to get there, and getting people to understand the steps that they're going to have to take in that process to get where they want to be, right? Because everybody thinks, oh yeah, my pain comes from, the other day I bent over to pick up the paperclip and I threw out my back. Well, once you get to that point, there's a lot of things that have happened.
You're right.
to get you there.
It's not
right?
The paperclip.
It's not the paper. It wasn't the paperclip, and it wasn't you went for a bike ride or whatever. Yeah. There's a lot of things going on.
Yep.
that got you to that point, and we have to unravel the whole thing to get you to a place where that you want to be, out of pain, feeling good, and getting back to what you want to do.
Yeah.
So I think those.
So how do you do that? Do you have an upfront conversation with them on the first visit? Or is this an ongoing conversation for you?
It's an ongoing conversation. I constantly remind people, do you remember when we first came in and you couldn't turn your leg inward? Do you remember that? Yeah. Look at this. You can turn your leg in. Do you remember when we first tried to do that? You would cry in pain because your hip hurt or your knee hurt or what? Do you remember that? Okay. You're here now. This is really good. And now we're trying to get here. I am constantly reminding people, I'm always going back to day one, or that moment where we tried to do something, right? Whatever, trying to do a squat or a pull. Do you remember when you tried to do that squat and you had to hang on and then you bailed after 2 reps and, your hip hurt, your back hurt, and you're hey, look at you. You're doing squats now. Yay, right? I'm constantly selling them on where they were, how far they've come and the things that we did to get them there.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly doing that. I think the other challenge is, dealing with clients, not, what's the word I want? People come in with a very particular idea of what healing is and how it looks. And what you do, what I do, is a very, very different process than what most people have experienced. Right. So getting people to put aside their preconceived notion of how I'm going to go about introducing healing to them, or how, and same for you, how you're going to go about introducing healing to them, getting them to put aside that notion of, oh, this is how it goes.
Yeah.
That's why you're here. You already went through all those things that didn't work for you. Why would you want me to,
repeat
do
it?
The same? Yeah, we're not doing that today. This is what I do. This is how it tends to work. We're going to go up, we're going to go here, and then we're going to go up again. And, we're right. Ultimately, after 6 months or a year, you're going to be in a much better place. Yep. But it's not going to be just, hey, everything's great. And, from day one, you're going to be out of pain. No, that's not how it works. It's a process. So getting people to understand the process, maybe managing their expectations that, right out of the gate, they're not going to be totally out of pain, or they're going to be running that marathon next week, or whatever it is they think they want to do. So yeah, getting their mind in line is just a constant process, because even though they say, yeah, I get it, because they've never, or they understand.
It's surface level understanding.
Yeah. And it's like with posturology, it's a very interesting thing. I tell people what's going to happen. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you where you are in space, right? Where's your pelvis? Is it like this? Is it like that? Is it rotated? You're going to know where your pelvis is. Where are your shoulders? Are they dipped? Are they rotated? What's going on with your shoulders? How do your feet hit the ground? What's your balance like? Then we're going to do some muscle testing. We're going to find out where the weak spots are, all of that. And then I'm going to put these insoles on your feet, and it's all going to change instantly. And they're like, yeah, okay, yeah. No, really, it's all going to change instantly. Mm-hmm. And then I do it, and then it does, and they go, well, how'd you do that? And I'm like, well, I spent the last 15 minutes explaining that to, how it was all going to work, right?
You weren't really taking it in.
Yeah, but it's hard to. It's sort of like, and this is apropos to, what we're all going through right now. Not that I hope everybody goes through what New York is going through right now, which is a horrible situation, right? With the COVID, and we have literally thousands of people dying on a weekly basis in New York City. That's a horrible thing. Mm-hmm. And the nurses and the medical community is trying to alert other areas of the country. If you don't want this to happen to you, or you need to take these steps. And if it does happen to you, this is what it's like. And then you hear these nurses talking, whether they're in St. Louis or Michigan or wherever, they're like, wow, I heard what the guy in New York said, but I had no idea what this was like, right? When their emergency room is overrun with,
sick people.
COVID, really sick people, and people who are dying, and it's, they're like, it's devastating. So, I mean, not that I hate, I don't mean to compare it to such a devastating and awful thing, but it's really hard to understand what somebody's trying to tell you until you experience it.
Totally.
You have to go through it. And we try and do the best we can as practitioners to enlighten people, or trying to give them an idea of, this is how this process is going to work. But there's really no way to even start to take it in until you do it.
Yeah. And I often can't, people will always ask me, how many sessions of this is it going to take? And what should I expect? And I'm like, I don't know. I've had an entire spectrum of responses to hypnotherapy. Some people feel amazing and never come back. Other people, I'm still seeing them 4 years later, and they're slowly chipping away at what they want to accomplish. So
yeah,
I have no idea.
Exactly. And I try and give people a typical idea, like, okay,
Right.
we're going to do these things, and uh, quite often what happens is you're going to come back a week later, and half of the things that we worked on are still going to be good, and then half of them might have kind of
Gone
fallen
back.
off, and
Yeah.
we gotta glue those things back together and then move on. It's sort of
Yep.
like that process. And like you, I've had people come in a couple times and I never see them again. They're like, yeah, I feel great.
See
Adios.
you later.
I'm like, okay, cool. And
Yeah.
then, unfortunately, sometimes there are people where I'm like, I wish I could help you more. I'm not helping you as much as I wanted to,
Yeah.
you know. And then also what's interesting about that is, even though a lot of times I feel like I'm not helping them as much as I want to, they still stay with me because I'm helping them more than anybody else ever has, which
Totally.
is kind of like mind blowing. I'm like, oh, wow. All right. I feel like I'm doing a terrible job, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm helping you. And I've seen that before. I remember I had a client, this is 20 years ago, back at Chelsea Piers, and he wasn't happy. Like, he had this idea of what he wanted to accomplish. And back then I was just a personal trainer. Well, I hate to downplay that. Well, I was a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And so he left, and then I saw him like a month later, and he had gained weight, and he really didn't look very good. And I realized sometimes at that time, like, sometimes treading water
Good.
is good. It's better than drowning.
Keeping you alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. That was kind of a light bulb moment for me, right? Yeah, maybe you don't have J-Lo abs right now, but you're not falling down the rabbit hole either.
Yeah. You're moving your body consistently.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think depending on, how you create the energy of what you're doing, like in your workspace and in how you are with people, for a lot of people, just coming into that every week is like total medicine. Like no matter what you do with the body.
That's a very good point. And I think, as I mentioned before we started recording, I'm doing, I don't know, a handful of sessions, 8 sessions a week. And I've become and they're not, I don't think they're nearly as good as an in-person session. I don't think with what I do, I don't think it can be as good, but I've become a touchstone for those clients. And it's very reassuring to have some continuity in their life, that touchstone, that kind of routine, and it forces them to do all the things that they may not necessarily do, right? All the homework that I prescribed, whatever that may be, right? Isometrics, eye exercises, cross crawls, whatever, all of it, right? And you're right. It's that all those little pieces of medicine, they're like herbs or healing herbs or whatever, or it's medicine, right? For the mind, for the soul, for the body, for sure.
I love what you said, a touchstone in people's lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that a person can depend on.
Yeah, I'm going to be
really
here.
Consistent, caring person that you can always go to and feel cared for.
Right. And that's obviously, I mean, anytime I've ever worked with you, that's how I've always felt working with you, for sure. I think you're such an empathetic practitioner, empathetic person. And then as a practitioner, I always feel that way when I've worked with you. And that's really important. I was watching television the other day, and they had a doctor on. He was a foot specialist at Mount Sinai, which is right up the street here. And they have a lot of COVID patients, and there's a lot going on. And, everybody in New York right now is dealing with that on a very, very real level. Like the idea of you walking outside and you might die is very real. And he was saying that a lot of people are getting injured because people are exercising more and they haven't done a lot of exercise. And he's a foot and ankle specialist. And he said that the first part of his sessions when people come to him now is dealing with their psychology of dealing with the COVID outbreak in New York City.
Yeah.
And so he said, once, we get past that, then we can get into, foot mechanics and things like that.
Yeah.
So, the psychology of what's going on, the emotional situation, the psychology, whatever that's going on with a person when they come in, being able to address it, create a safe space for it, interact with them and all of it, right, it's key, right? If you can't do that, if you don't have empathy where they're coming from and be able to incorporate it into the session, then not going to happen.
Right.
This is another thing I realized. That point was driven home to me the other day. I have a client who's in my complex here. She's 80 years old, and she's really wonderful. And we do all kinds of work, my work, whether it's MAT or posturology or exercise or whatever. And sometimes, like any practitioner or personal trainer, there's sort of that, okay, let's go, let's get down to work here, let's do our thing. And I said something, and she goes about, she wanted to show me some pictures of her granddaughter or something, and I was not in the mood, and then she's like, well, that's why you're here. And I went, ooh, you're right.
Yeah.
She needed to show me those pictures of her granddaughter, right? That was much more important than getting down to business. Now, of course, we don't want to spend all our session on that, but for me to not take that in and go, okay, yeah, show me, you're okay, right? That was the most important thing. We needed to do that before we got to the things that were important to me, right?
Right.
Or that I thought were
important for both of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow. Oh man, we ran out of time.
We're out of time already?
We did. I have somebody at 10.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah. I
would come back. We could do a part 2.
We can do a part 2. Okay.
If you are so inclined.
That. Yeah, why not? I think that's fun.
Yeah, I love talking with you.
Reach out to you if they want to book a session with you virtually or after this, or they want to ask you about posturology or MAT or anything. What would be the easiest way?
Well, there's email.
Okay.
Would be my name, Brant Amundson at Gmail.
Yep.
And then I have a phone number, but hold on one second.
Okay. Do you not know it?
Hi.
Brant's forgotten his own phone number.
What's the phone number? 917.
Okay.
267 0617.
Is that like your like Google phone number or something?
Yeah, it's other phone number that
business one. I'm like, did this dude forget his own phone number? That's a mess.
No, I'm not that bad.
Okay.
I'm not that bad.
All right, well, stay tuned, everyone, for part 2.
Thanks, Jamie.
You're welcome.
It was really great talking to you.
It was. Much
Thank you.
To you.